All right, guys, let's take a quick break here to talk a little bit about Prize Picks, currently the number one sports pick app in America. The app is very easy to use. Check it out to my left here. You can do player picks where you just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Or you can pick teams where you pick winners, spread, or total on any game or fight. The app is available in most states, including California, Texas, and Florida. Right now, they have a great offer. You can play your first $5 lineup and get $150 in lineups if you win. All you have to do is use code HMA when you sign up. It's a brand new offer, best time possible to get on the app. So get on over there and get to winning that first lineup. So remember, Prize Picks, code HMA. Download the app today and remember to always gamble responsibly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show today. I am Brendan. That over there is Brandon. The Seahawks are 1 week into their preseason. They got 2 weeks to go. We've got a joint practice coming up in the next couple of days here. We've got things happening. Things are going right now in the NFL. We are racing to the start of the season, a season where your team will be defending a Super Bowl title. So how you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing phenomenal, man. As you say, you're always the champions. Every day is a glorious day.
Right? Absolutely. And last week has been interesting. Last week has seen a couple of things happen, starting with the somewhat ugly and sloppy preseason game, which I don't think there's going to be a lot to say about that one. A lot of the sloppiness came from players that are not going to be on the team more than another couple of weeks, and in some cases aren't even on the team now. But bit of a messy game. So I want to ask you about, have you seen the third episode of Hard Knocks yet first?
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's much watched television.
Yeah. What'd you think of this one? How'd you feel about what you saw from this?
I think in overall, it is a really good episode. Every one of them has had multiple things within the episodes that I've really liked that I felt like are, you watch this stuff a lot of times, Brendan, and it's just empty paper thin wafer type stuff as far as like real true value in what you're getting. But I find myself over and over again feeling like I'm finding nuggets time and time again of things that do give me true insights about this team that are just interesting about the team. And so it has made it to me where I think this is one of the better hard knocks that I've seen in recent years. Maybe it's because you're covering a good team, but I mean, I think there's some value here that are beyond just the surface. Do you agree?
Yeah. There's been stuff in every episode that I think is interesting, and I'm finding it also kind of notable that fans of other teams are commenting about how they're used to Hard Knocks being kind of a clown show where you get to look at a bad team, and they're noticing the
Hmm.
difference. There's less drama. Like episode 2, you had like 5 minutes about how much Sam Darnold spins the ball, and some people observed like, I'll bet they're not able to find drama the way they usually are with these Hard Knocks teams, so they got to come up with a segment like that they normally wouldn't. And this last episode, there were a couple of things that actually kind of stuck with me. The first was Richard Sherman talking about the difference between the LOB Seahawks and the MOB Seahawks, and kind of saying the stuff that we, I think, already kind of felt. But to hear it from him was kind of confirmation that what we're feeling is accurate. And I thought that was interesting because what he basically said was, this team is more together. This team is a bit more unified. That team was a little bit more splintered, especially as time went by. And he felt like this team, you don't see any of that. And that stood out to me because we think it, but we don't know if it's true or not. But if he's saying it, it's probably true.
Yeah, I think in his astonishment by it, that it's just how do you get that this thing should come with the other. You win a championship, the ego should kind of come with it as it did with us. And I think that Legion of Boom team was such a great team, but it was also a little bit of a powder keg, and that Carroll kept it in line, and the team leaders kind of kept it in line, and things were able to kind of stand to wraps until, of course, we ran into the worst of situations, which caused the whole thing to just explode. But it was building to that point, and I think with this team, you don't feel that same kind of build. And I think it's an important point on your part because when we talk about not just sustainability, but truly having an opportunity to go back and win a Super Bowl, when I've done the studying through years past and looking at those teams that kind of burst on the scene, became Super Bowl winners, whether or not they, and then failed to kind of get back there again, you always kind of went back to the thing that Sherman was talking about there, which is if you look and backtrack all the things he's talking about, the individual guys, you can kind of pull that thread back to ego kind of leading the way individually rather than the team. And that ends up upending your ability because too many egos start popping off. Too many guys want too much credit. I want this. I want that. I want this. Then now suddenly the sanctity of your locker room is gone. The peace is gone. And now you're just going to have this again, back to powder keg. And I think that that's what's unique about this team is that we have not gotten any sort of indicators of that. And I do think that we would have gotten indicators beyond if Sherman's was blowing smoke there or not, which I don't think he is, but just to attach it to what we've seen, like you say, what we think, this also fits the reality we've seen. And it's so very unusual. And that's why I think Richard pointed out, because this is not just a thing with Seattle that you would have seen. It wasn't a Legion of Boom problem. This is a thing of a human nature thing. I can look at the 85 Bears and the same issues that tracked a little bit of the Legion of Boom, having those issues moving forward past that initial success. Same thing there. They only got one championship too. Should have had multiple. That defense was a bunch of Hall of Famers all over the place, but the ego overtook that team. And this team's not let it happen, Brendan.
Right. So that was really cool because, again, we can feel it, but we don't know if it's real or not because it could just be us speculating on stuff that may or may not be true. But to hear him say it, and he knows, obviously, he knows what happened in that LOB locker room. He knows how things went down over time, more than maybe anybody else in the world, except for Carroll himself. So I think that was really cool. I like the Jason Garrett segment, which was interesting because my first reaction when I saw that was, what is Jason Garrett doing in our building? Get him the hell out of here. I don't want that guy anywhere near my building. But the stuff he said about being a backup quarterback, I thought was actually really interesting.
Yeah, it's it's one of the reasons we want to see Milroe get a lot of run is you need those reps, and if you're only doing mental reps, you've got to find a way to maximize the mental reps, like he was talking about drawing out on the diagrams. And I think that was great points. It's any little insights you can get to be a better backup, the better from a guy like that. But yeah, he's a little bit of when he starts talking, you just start going. It's good insights, but just the tone of the voice, and his manner, it's just
yeah,
a little sleepy.
And we've been listening to him forever because he was the head coach of the Cowboys for like a decade, and then he went into announcing. So been hearing that voice for forever. I'm sick of it.
Yeah. It's not the most dynamic of voices. I mean, I don't have myself the same, but it's like just it'll. I just found myself like, yeah, you're diagramming. It's good.
Most of the episode, and this was one of the things that was kind of unfortunate. Most of the episode was built around the Terry and Arnold stuff, where we got to see the process of the team deciding to bring him in, deciding to try to sign him, and then signing him. Unfortunately, earlier in that day, the day of it airing, we got the news that when he is signed, and I, by the way, I still believe he will be signed. I'm not worried about that. But we now know that he is going to be put on the exempt list and thus will not be allowed to play or practice. So it kind of felt like the air got let out of the balloon right before the episode went on. So I do want to pivot away from the Hard Knocks episode for a second. How do you feel about how things have changed now that we know about the Terry and Arnold exempt list situation?
Well, I know that they had said in one of the Hard Knocks that they thought that maybe he was going to be able to play in the preseason, but I had always operated from the assumption that when you signed him, he was not going to be available, that this was a long-term situation as much as anything else. And so it didn't really change my outlook or view of the situation because it was anticipated, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was anticipating at least like he would miss the first 6 games because that seems to be the standard in the NFL right now, where when you get into trouble, even if you don't get charged, even if the charges get dropped or whatever, the league will still suspend you typically 6 games. That's what Ezekiel Elliott got back in the day. That's what I think it was Jaron Reed got suspended for something for 6 games back in the day. So that's kind of what I was expecting, at least that. Now, the fact that he's being put on the exempt list kind of leaves things very open-ended, so we don't know when we're going to get him. But one thing that I want to say is I think this team likes Josh Jobe a lot. I don't think there was any sense that they were going to bring in Terry and Arnold and he was just going to immediately start over Josh Jobe. He's being brought in to be a backup who could maybe take the starting job down the line because he is more talented than Jobe. But I don't think this team was sitting there thinking Josh Jobe isn't good enough. We need somebody better. and we thought Terrion Arnold was going to be that guy. I think this team likes Josh Jobe and believes that he's going to be a good number 2 corner.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on this. I think that people are getting caught up a little bit on the fact that these guys are is a first round talent, or that simply the interest in these corners and them looking means that they're not happy with the cornerback room. I think it kind of misses the point on this, which is that we've been looking at the back end of rosters for years when it comes to the cornerback position, Brendan. What are we looking at? 6th, 7th rounders, journeymen, undrafted rookie free agents. Is this usually kind of the best case scenario for your 5th, 6th corner on the roster?
For the most part, I mean, it's really hard for it to not be. Corners are very coveted. Teams want to have a bunch of good ones. So there aren't enough good corners to go around to fill out your depth chart like that.
So let's put it together, man. Let's just put it right down the line on this. That's the current situation of where we land right now with our back end roster depth. I think, like you say, our front line guys are good, but let's also remember what this team and how this team wants to build itself, which is towards the collective. Some teams build to star power. Some teams build to starter power. We build to the collective unit itself. How can we make the collective at its strongest? And if I'm looking at first round options at any given positional group, for a positional group where I'm looking at 6th and 7th rounder and undrafted rookie free agents and journeymen, coming off a year last year where I had to sign Shaquille Griffin off his couch, yeah, I'm kind of thinking maybe there's a way I can really soup this up and upgrade this. Again, last point being, you run as many corners out on the football field more than any team in the NFL with living in nickel and dime. That means you require your corners to eat up as many snaps as any other corners out there, which means they're more in a precarious place to get injured, which means you need more of them, which means you're going to need more quality of them when you have to call upon them. And that's what I think is the heart of this decision.
Yeah, and I will say I do think this team is probably a little dissatisfied with what they've got on the back end of their corner depth, because right now you've got Julian Neal, who's missed most of camp, and then you've got 2 7th-round rookies back there behind Pritchett, who the team may not be that hot to trot on anyway, even though he's had a pretty good camp. They may feel like he doesn't really fit what they do. So there is a little bit of urgency there, but I don't think this team was thinking we got to have Terrion Arnold for week 1 or else we're in trouble. I'm pretty sure this was like maybe not even about this year. We could be playing the long game here, because the thing is, Terrion Arnold, if he misses some of this season and then comes back for part of it later on, he's restricted next season. So you can keep him for very cheap if you like what you see. And if he gets suspended and if he misses the whole season, then he's exclusive rights next year, and I believe restricted the following year. So either way, you're getting this guy for 2 years at a very reduced rate. That might be more exciting than anything that he could be doing for this team this season right now. So there are a few different ways this can play out, and I think all of them are good for the Seahawks. All of them involve them getting a really talented player for very little.
Yeah, I agree more. I think that's a good point about the fact that if he goes for the full year, you pick up then an extra year of club control, already having that second year as it stands if he just comes back for a couple of games. And this is an investment, and this is what smart teams should do. I mean, the Rams did this with Ty Simpson, right? They could have drafted for depth. They could have done that, but instead they grabbed a pick for the long term. A few teams would find themselves in that kind of position to make those sort of far-reaching, sort of projectable picks in what you're doing, rather than we need this now, help us now. And this is a lot like that in the same vein. And in regards to the fact that you're not giving up draft capital and it doesn't cost you any money. And it's like, keep coming back to, it's, what's the downside really here? Other than the people that are getting up in arms with some of the PR stuff, there's no downside to it as far as the team itself, and thus should absolutely be a deal that this team does. There were 7 other teams that were, in on this to potentially do it as well. So, and it's cool he picked here as well. It's another part we're not talking about, but it's like he's picking coming here. That's the other part of this, is that, he had options. This wasn't like you're the only team offering me a chance. It's worth kind of considering too.
Yeah, he could kidnap Byron Murphy. That's the only downside, right? If he does that, that'd be bad. But
he's off the team at that point. I'm not guaranteeing his contract.
Yeah. So the big news over the last couple of days was with the announcement of Terrion Arnold going on the exempt list. The team pivoted to signing Trayvon Diggs, and he is now in the building. He signed. He had a press conference yesterday talking about how all the Alabama players on this team and in this organization kind of convinced him that this was the place for him to go. So let's talk about that one a little bit because I think that one's a little bit less clear because the fit is a little bit more questionable with Diggs. So I don't know how you feel about it. So let me hear what you got to say first because I didn't check your show last night yet.
Yeah, I mean, Trayvon's a guy that we've both been talking about and looked at going back to college. I believe you and I at one point in time were talking about him when he was coming out of the draft. And so we've had a very long look at this guy even before he got into the pros. And he is a guy that is very talented, obviously athletically and, speed wise and just agility. He's got kind of the full meal deal for what you could want on the outside, former receiver convert. The ball skills are there and he can cover. It's some similarities to Woolen in certain respects. He's not as long as Woolen or quite maybe as fast, but might have even more better ball skills than Woolen does. And so he gives you ability to do that with him. The clear downsides are very clear and they're very certain, and they remain to be seen if he can clean them up. And that is run defense, getting off blocks, tackling, and then getting to gambly. He's a Kenny Rogers cornerback, Brendan, and that he's going to be a gambler. And that's when you're stacking all that together with the fact that you're a little bit of a liability as a run defender and in tackling, it's not really too helpful in getting you rounded out as a player. So, it kind of remains to be seen if he can clean that up. He's coming off also now ACL last year, still wasn't quite back from it, still a little bit in that, rounding out his kind of form, I think, a little bit. Now, maybe a year removed, he can get back to athletically where he was, still only 28 years old. A guy that was a former first round guy that wasn't like it was a huge reach at the time. He was looked at in a lot of ways like Terry and Arnold, where there would have been a lot of teams that would have taken him in the first round, but maybe a little bit later. So, very talented guy. But I mean, I think that you are talking about a back end guy on the roster. You're talking about a guy being better than a Dansby, Shamar Charles. That this is what we're really talking about. Julian Love a little bit slow to come back. Julian Neal a little bit slow to come back from his injury. So you're just looking at him as kind of one of the back end guys, and I don't mind it for that. I mean, getting a talent like that on the back end, again, back for cheap isn't bad at all.
Yeah. How do you feel about him in zone? Because I think he's the guy who's talked to before about how he feels like there's an adjustment he needs to make when he plays in zone and he's more comfortable in man. So how do you see that fitting in?
Well, I think Mike runs a lot of cross-reference stuff. He'll run press to one side of the field and then run off coverage to the other side of the field. I mean, that's what you did with a lot of Woolen, and Woolen would run the press man stuff, and then you'd have Job off coverage zone. So that's the beautiful thing about Mike's system is that it's not rigid and that he can allow for that fluidity to be out there for the personnel he has. And I think something Mike has shown is that he's going to utilize the talent he has rather than force fitting them into the way that he needs the scheme to be run. And so if you get a guy like this on the field, I think you'll find a way to use him in what he does comfortably and best. And that there's room for that in the system to bring some of those man tenants to play. I've kind of wondered a little bit, Brendan, I don't know this for sure, but I do wonder, does McDonald going into year 3 with so much of the defensive roster returning to him multiple years over, hence he feels really comfortable about really unloading the full totality of the playbook. And with that, a lot more of the blitzing, a lot more of the we're going to really take it to you. And then on the back of that, on the back end would be a little bit more of the man-based coverage stuff if you're going to do that. I just didn't, I wonder if he is.
Yeah, because that is one thing that I was thinking about, because the thing with Terry and Arnold is that he's a zone corner. I believe that he was put on this earth to play zone. It makes sense with McDonald. With Diggs, I kind of feel more like, I feel like Dan Quinn got the most out of him in Dallas when he was playing a lot of man. So I wonder about that, but I don't think okay.
One thing I'll say is that we run a lot of man match concepts, which is first zone to man coverage. And so that's another way to kind of broach, sorry to interrupt you, but that's another way to kind of broach this is you are running some of that concept. It's kind of a half and half. It's just essentially stay on top, make sure you're clear up top. Once you've determined you're not clear, once you're clear up top and he's not trying to run a go route, eat everything up underneath when he tries to bust that route off. And so that then does allow a guy to do a little bit more of that.
Yeah. And unlike Arnold, who may be here for the long term, I don't think Diggs is here as a long-term solution. I think he's here to hold the fort down in the depth room at cornerback while you're hoping you get Arnold back or you're hoping somebody else steps forward, like a Julian Neal. And by the way, I still have high hopes for Julian Neal down the line, but with him missing almost all of training camp, it is very unlikely that he'll be ready to make a positive impact early in the season. It kind of reminds me of Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny got hurt and missed all of his rookie training camp, basically, and he wasn't ready to play until like November, late November, I think
Yeah.
it was, because you need that time. You need that opportunity to kind of acclimate yourself to the NFL. And right now, Julian Neal's not getting it because he's been out for close to 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a place where they're probably getting on the line of a little bit of, do we maybe just stash out Neal at that point and roll with it? I think they'll be hesitant to pull that, but that's probably a little bit on the table a little bit because he, like to your point, I think it is. When you're the rookie like that in this system, what this system like we just talked about, a lot of man zone, man match, your off coverage press. There's a lot of different requirements that you got to kind of master within the system to get on the field in the secondary. And so him missing it like he is, it's hard to catch up on that once he does get back on the field, once training camp is over. And so we can understand why there's some interest in this realm.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I think that's really about all the stuff that's happening. Teams looking for a new fullback, I guess, because of the unfortunate Robbie Oots news. Right now they got Brock Lampy, and he was actually one of the more exciting fullbacks coming out of college last year. So I like that. I think that's a pretty good signing, and I got a good feeling about Brock Lampy. But anything else? Anything else going on in the world of the Seahawks over the last week that I forgot?
I think if we could just take a second and talk about the contracts with Devin Witherspoon, and I talked about on the show yesterday, but I just wanted to think it's worth mentioning one more time that the 2 contract extensions spun by Devin Witherspoon and Jackson Smith-Njigba, 2 guys that might be on a Hall of Fame trajectory. We now have them under a 6-year contract. We have the numbers massaged out to the nth degree. Both of them will be under 5% for the next couple of years on the cap hit. And even once they get over 5%, then into year 3, the cap will have gone up by that much, meaning that my prediction on this will be that the first 3 years of these contract extensions will not see either of these guys climb above 5%. And that's for all pros in their prime that just got paid. So these deals are phenomenal. Derek Hall took seemingly a little bit less. Abraham Lucas, you got him in on a deal. You put all these deals together when you start stacking them one after another, and you're saving money. And now you've got a chunk of change that you can go out there and really go do some damage with. And John has set the stage.
Yeah. I was looking at the Devin Witherspoon deal, and OTC and Spotrac both have the same data now, by the way. So I'm inclined to believe that their data is correct, because if it was just one of them, then I'd say maybe they got those numbers wrong, but it's both of them. Very, very favorable. Like the dead money becomes manageable within a couple of years, based on the data that they have. And if that is indeed the case, and right now I assume that it is, then you have maintained a lot of flexibility here. And there's no point in the Devin Witherspoon contract in particular, because that's the one I was just looking at, where the cap hit becomes oppressive to the point where you're not going to be able to take it. There's no cap hit anywhere in that contract that makes you go, oh, well, we're going to have to trade that guy or cut that guy or extend that guy, and we're not going to have a choice. No, you've got choices running all the way through that deal, I feel like. So really good setup.
Well, John's track record is this too, Brendan. You noticed it, in that so many teams put this sort of cliff that they're going to have to jump off of in the contract in order to manage the numbers around for the player and get him paid. What Seattle does is that they've done this in the past. And remember this, that how often do we really come back and cut guys due to financial this, or a lot of guys finish out their contract with us. A lot of guys get to the end of the deal, and the deal they signed where it was an extension. And it's because the numbers are never put in a precarious place where you're like, well, we have to do something here. You can just let the thing ride all the way out through as you're going through the process, because you never made it unmanageable.
Right. And the fact that it is a 4-year extension on top of the 2 years that's left. I think about what the salary cap's going to do over the next 6 years. It's going to launch into the stratosphere. There will probably come a time over the next 6 years where both players end up feeling like they're underpaid. And they may be correct about that because of the way the cap keeps going up and the way players keep getting paid more and more and more. And the team's going to be in a really favorable situation as to how to deal with that. So there's a lot of good stuff to say about both those contracts. You're right, the JSN one as well. Derek Hall probably would have cost a lot more in a year if we had tried to get him then. Probably would have been way more expensive. And it does set us up really well to maybe be able to keep most of this crew together. I know that some people say we already lost a bunch of the crew because of Walker and Woolen and Kobe Bryant, but I don't think those guys were ever really part of the crew. They were valuable, good players that helped us win. But to me, all those guys are replaceable. I do believe that, you look at even somebody like a Walker, who's a really good player. I think those guys are replaceable. I think this team is going to be able to keep everybody they have that could be considered irreplaceable.
Yeah, 100% agree. And let's face it, safety and running back are what they are as far as positional rankings in this NFL, right? They're devalued for a reason because, to your point, they tend to be ones that I can replace if I have to, and not have to stretch myself into knots to do so.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, yeah, contract stuff looking good. Leonard Williams extension should be coming in the next couple of weeks, I would imagine. I think that
Yeah.
one's actually going to be kind of easy because the thing with a guy like Leonard is he's already made a lot of money in the NFL. He's already made well over $150 million in NFL salary. So he's not, I don't think there's that same level of demand to get every dollar you can when you get to that point, the way it is for guys like Spoon and JSN who are trying to get paid for the first time. So I think the Williams extension, whenever it comes down, is going to be relatively peaceful and understandable. I don't think there's going to be some long fight over it.
Agreed. Yeah, guy. It's hard to, in the guy at his age point, even coming off the year he's coming off of, and the success he's had. You'll pay him, and you'll pay him top of the market. To try to break the bank market point when you're that age is kind of hard to pull off.
Right. Okay. So I think that is about it in terms of like the latest and greatest on the Seahawks in terms of things that are happening right now. So we got a donation here from Seth. Thank you for the $4.99. Do you think Byron will finally be regarded as a top 10 defensive tackle this season, or do you think it won't happen until he can play more 3-tech instead of nose? If he improves from where he was last year, when he was already a really good pass rusher on top of anchoring the best run defense in football, I mean, if we have another really good season and a really good defense, I don't see how people keep ignoring that. Because there is one team out there that most people will say have 2 top 10 defensive tackles, so it's not impossible. You know, you got Philly over there. So I think so, yes. I think he will be.
I would agree with Brendan. I think that the reputation on this stuff just takes a little bit extra time, more than it should, for the performance we've seen on the field to catch up. And he was still able to garner like 7 sacks last year. I was trying to look it up and make sure I'm right on this and referencing it, but I think he was like 7 sacks last year. He was able to pile up for your Hawks, and that's still eating up those double teams, which is really phenomenal protection, quite frankly, to be able to do that. And his pressure rate from coming to the inside, everybody's been referencing Dexter Lawrence, and rightfully so, for how he's gone as the nose tackle and the gold standard nose tackle in the NFL. Byron's becoming that guy. He is now going to start to ascend as that gold standard, in my opinion. And to be able to do not only dominant run defense, but also be a good rushing of the passer. To your point, though, Seth, I don't think we're going to get the best sparkle from Byron until the day he's transitioning to 75% of the time playing in the 3-tech versus 75% of the time upwards he's playing right now at the nose tackle position. And I think that until we get to that spot, there's no need to rush it when you're having the success we have both individually and as a team. But when that day comes, then I think you're looking at a guy that's going to be pushing 12, 13 sacks a year, rather than pushing more like 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe at best, where he'll be at from this position.
Right. He'll probably be like right there with the league leaders in sacks for a defensive tackle when he moves over. And I don't know exactly when that's going to happen. And it's not like the Seahawks defense is suffering for him not being able to do that, right? Like they're probably pretty happy with the way their defense came together last year with him in that role. And yeah, sometimes, I think they've talked to him a little bit this offseason. He seems proud of the fact that he can play nose tackle as well as he does. But
yeah, I think.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think when he knows that this team's going to pay their guys, is the nice part about paying guys too. Is you're like, how are they going to know what my value is when I come up to be paid, and they're going to try to stretch me out? And it's like, no, we'll know your value. We'll pay you. We'll give you the Jalen Carter contract that was thrown out just a couple of weeks ago, right? So I think he's seeing the big picture. And again, doesn't it help, Brendan, when you go, hey, off you being the good soldier, we won a Super Bowl. Is there no greater proof from the team's perspective in saying, take one for the team, and that this is going to be the outlook of what it is, especially if you can acknowledge that you're going to get paid in a year from now, that you're not going to be essentially penalized because you don't have the sack production because you've been playing so much nose tackle.
Right. And look, I sometimes you might say, well, players like to get sacks because sacks gets you paid. Pretty sure Byron Murphy's going to get paid next year no matter what. Like even if he only has 7 sacks again this year, we're going to pay him like we think he's the best defensive tackle in football, because we may very well think that. So I'm not too worried about that part of it, but you always want to get sacks, right? Those are the things that get you attention as a player in the NFL. Those are the things that get you defensive player of the year. So I'm sure he'll appreciate it when that day comes. So I'm hoping that at some point, maybe not this offseason, but at some point in the next couple of years, we can find a really good pure nose at some point.
To your point, there's a heavy disparity in the NFL Hall of Fame of men that were pure nose tackles to men that were three techs. And I don't have to ask you to guess which one there's a highly amount more of than the other.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Kind of like the middle linebacker to will linebacker thing. It's like you just can't get no love when you play that other one.
Right. So I think that if let's say we win the Super Bowl again and have the top defense in football again, I think Murphy will be regarded as top 10. But I don't think he'll be as high as he should be, which at that point he might really be like top 3. And people won't recognize it quite yet.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It'll be like he'll be into that 7-6 territory, but he should be looked at as in that much higher because there's very few that can do what he can do. Like Dexter Lawrence can't go play the 3 tech like he can play the 3 tech, but he can play the nose tackle every bit as good as Dexter Lawrence can.
Yeah. I mean, Dexter Lawrence, the way he's looking these days, he might not be able to do much of anything. He might be he might be a trash can in the middle.
Boy, he got that. He got paid and he did not. I don't know if it motivated him. Let's just say that. You know what I mean? Maybe motivate him to the couch.
Yeah, he's got that. He's got like a daily setup with Pizza Hut to deliver to his house every day. He doesn't even have to place the order. They just come at 5 every night.
He's trying to shed that camp weight right now. 10 pounds a day.
Yeah. Lower. Thank you for the $2. What does a new BM2 deal look like? Well, Jalen
Carter plus $1.5 million per year.
Yeah, Jalen Carter kind of cannonballed the market here a little bit because we knew he was going to get paid more than other tackles. I didn't think he was going to get paid that much more. Like that was a pretty big jump. And the thing is, I know that Jalen Carter is a bigger name, but in my mind, Byron Murphy clears him by a pretty good amount. I would much rather have Murphy than Carter. My understanding is that Carter still doesn't play the run that well, and I look at Murphy and I see a much more complete player. I don't know. I know that's not necessarily the public perception, but I don't know if I totally understand the Jalen Carter hype at this point.
Well, I mean, they put, I'm trying to count it up right now, Brendan. They put about $80 million in void year money out to 2035 in the deal. 80 million in dead void money, just void.
Yeah, they do not care. They will deal with it later. That's for future Howie. Current Howie's happy, future Howie going to be miserable.
I don't know what the Eagles are going to do down the road. It's so significant on every single contract, but it'll be interesting to see how that affects Byron's deal because you're not going to throw void years in the same way. I think that the key part of what you can do that the Eagles did do on this deal and that we just did on JSN, and I think this will be an easy sell to Byron at this point, is just because you can now work with a 6-year contract rather than a 4, you can kind of get any numbers done you need to get done. That's the nice part about it because you can massage the numbers down the line. Player can still get his guarantees. Everybody kind of gets the win-win. And so I think that it's going to be a very easy deal to get done because of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think these players do have some belief in themselves. Like a guy like Witherspoon's not afraid, I'm going to get cut in 3 years because I'm not playing good anymore. He knows how good he is. Same for Murphy. I think Murphy's very confident that I'm not going to give the team a reason to want to move off of me because I'm going to be that good at football. So I think that's also a little bit of a part of it as well. I imagine you're looking at something like a 4-year, $166 million extension, right? 168 maybe at most.
Yeah, probably because there'll probably be another deal or two that supplement or surpass Jalen Carter's deal by that point. And that's obviously going to push the thing up a little bit. And so it will be up around that range. Yeah, that's probably about accurate. And then you'd bury the 4 years on the last 2 of his rookie deal.
Yeah, and hopefully Kobe Turner doesn't cannonball us again. Like if Kobe Turner gets 42, then I think Byron Murphy's probably pushing up to 43 and a half.
Well, the Rams aren't paying much of their young guys right now, man. They're trying to play that like we'll get you on the next pass. We'll get you when we come around the bend the next time. Like maybe they'll pull it off, but you're right. He's going to be due to be able to really I mean, I don't know how Kobe doesn't be able to get paid kind of at this point what Carter got paid. He's a more complete player. A lot of the things you said about Byron Murphy, I think you could kind of say about Kobe Turner in regards to comparatively to Carter. You were right about that in the respect of he does not play the run well, and the Eagles protect him from playing the run. He gets that little juicy 2-to-1 snap count crap when it comes to his pass rushes versus run defense. So you go, yeah, it could get a little bit tough on this one, but that's where I keep coming back to IO. You got the 2 years on the rookie deal, and that's the key point to this because that just allows you to really spread things out, and you can get him to the numbers he wants to get to at that point. Say nothing of John's willing to use a little bit of void. He doesn't go Howie Roseman over the top, but he stuck a couple void years on the Devin and a couple void years on the JSN's deal. So I think that's also
and Darnold and Big Cat. Like I think you have to. I think if you're a GM in the modern day that isn't using void years, you're just going to get left behind. You don't have a chance. So,
well, the Eagles are getting dangerously close to Dodger-like territory with this void year stuff, don't you think?
Yeah, they're probably going to get it outlawed. I think they're probably going to ruin it for the rest of us, unfortunately. Like, have you heard about the stuff the Dodgers are going through lately where apparently they don't have the money and they were just kind of crossing their fingers that nobody would notice? Like, things are getting ugly over there. I wonder if things can get ugly over here.
F that team. Dodgers are like, baseball's already was suffering and they come along with their BS. And it's just like, and now they don't have the money. It's like, you just shake your head at just like, these teams just don't care. It's supposed to be a sport, the sanctity of the sport and the history of the sport. It's like, we don't care. But yeah, I think there's going to be a reckoning one way or the other here with these Eagles. They're not just going to dance their way off of this. Some people would like to say the salary cap's not real, but they're going to make it real, really real here. In a major way. And I don't know if they're just going to try to tank for 2 years, Brendan, and just rebuild everything, just own the suckiness, maybe is what they're thinking of. But there's got to be some plan in what they're thinking they're going to do here, because this is an iceberg of epic proportions on the horizon.
I mean, I don't know what else they can do, right? Well, they can try to field a team for $120 million that somehow still makes the playoffs. But, I mean, I think Philly fans would be willing to trust the process. They want a Super Bowl out of this. They've had a really good team for the last few years. I think Philly fans would be like, I understand. I know what's going on here. I'll cut back on the cheesesteaks. I'll live to see 3 years from now when we're good again.
They own the process. You got to give them credit, man. They don't back off the stick. They've decided a couple years ago they're going this direction, and they'll go. And he'll even do it on like 2-year, $6 million deals. Still dump a couple $100,000 out into 2035 just because.
Right. Let's see here. Tall Assassin, thank you for the $4.99. I am worried about what our new offense. We lost K9 and Zach is out most of the season. I don't think we can just run and ask JSN to bail us out. Well, I think that this team is counting on a couple things here. For one, last year, as much as the Seahawks had 2 really good running backs in K9 and Zach, they didn't run the ball very well because teams stacked the box and they had an offensive line that was a work in progress. This year, the offensive line is not a work in progress. It's the same 5 starters from last year, and teams won't be able to stack the box as much because of the presence of a guy like Rashid Shaheed. And maybe even you could throw in other players like Arroyo. You could throw in other players like a Horton in there as well, having him for the whole season, hopefully. So they're hoping that even though there's a downgrade in the level of talent in the backfield, which I absolutely believe that there is, I think that there is a belief that the running game will not get worse and may even get better.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything you said. I think rushing game success, Tallahassee, to me, does not come down to running back talent. It comes down to about 6 or 7 other things. And if you can take care of those 6 or 7 other things, then you can have running game success. To Brendan's point, you did not have those things fully synced up or stitched up through a lot of the first part of the year. There were some reasons for that, onboarding the new system. Brendan touched upon it as well. Every team through the first half of the schedule blitzed the piss out of us and played man coverage on the outside. And that gave you one-on-one opportunities with Jackson Smith. So it wasn't just simply you were having Jackson say, bail us out. It was that because defenses were stacking the box and blitzing the condensed splits, that was leaving Jackson one-on-one opportunities, and he's going to win every single time when he gets those opportunities. Then teams like Brendan say adjusted. You brought Shaheed in. They went to the cover 2 shell more often. They stopped going man. They stopped blitzing us. And then you were able to find running game success. And sometimes it can just be that simple. They put bodies in the box. You beat them over the top. They back off over the top. You beat them in the box. That's football. And that's really what you saw last year from this team and how they played it. And they can absolutely replicate that again absent of whoever is in the backfield rushing the rock, because again, they're taking care of all of those parameters. Good offensive line talent, cohesion on the offensive line, skill position players that are a threat, that challenge the defense, that make them pay attention to those positions, good tight end play, good blocking at the tight end, capable quarterback play, a defense that's not going to live on the football field nor give up constant points so that you can stay committed to running the ball. These are the things that drive rushing game success. It keeps coming back at times to this running back being the as I say, like the superhero, and that's not the truth of it. We've seen it proven out here over the years. It's been proven across the sport multiple times over. You've got to have all of those other things taken care of, and then you'll have the running game success. So we'll see if I'm wrong on this, but my bold prediction is to, like Brendan, you'll find actual better efficiency this year because all of those parameters are being brought into place when they weren't last year.
Right. And it's easy to forget this now because things got better at the end of the year in the postseason. This team was a bad running team early in the year. They just ran the ball a lot, but they were not very good at it at all. There were many games where they averaged about 2 yards a carry. And this year, I don't think that's going to be the case. There is something lost. I think going from K9 to Price is K9's a better player at this point. Sure. But I don't believe that the outcome in terms of backfield production this year is going to be worse. I don't. Also, for whatever it's worth, although I hope it doesn't come to this, if this team does need to start throwing the ball more, they are more equipped to do that this year than they were last year, because it's not just JSN now. You've got a whole year of Shaheed, who has been having a monster camp. You've hopefully got more Torrey Horton than you did last year, and a more experienced Torrey Horton. Arroyo should be more ready to make an impact than he was last year, because last year he was a rookie. There should be an opportunity to, if you need to spread it out and air it out a little bit more, you can do it. It's not going to be just a dead end where you're just throwing the ball right into a disaster zone. You actually have the receivers to maybe keep up with these teams in a shootout.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it just comes down to if they're going to bundle up the box, they're going to put extra guys down there in order to try to stop your run because they know the commitment's there from you. They're going to make the passing game really easy on the backside, especially with Sam's big arm and his ability to make those high leverage throws. And so you just have an ability, and that's the beautiful part about this offense is you do this, we can do that. We're going to go take the easy way out. We're not going to bang our head up against the wall and be like, well, we are committed to running the ball. We're just going to hit you like, oh, you're going to give us the freedom on the backside. But to your point, I don't think the teams are going to feel like they can stack the box on us because of the threat of JSN at this point being as certain as he is as a player. And then the threat of Rashid on the other side. I think that forces teams into that cover 2 shell. And that's really a centerpiece point where I operate off of with all those other things I said. I was saying, you're going to get lighter boxes. And then you drive that to also, Brendan, all these teams trying to copy us with nickel looks. So we're going to face some teams trying to do the Seattle nickel thing. You're going to get the light boxes with the 2 shell, nickel looks, really lighter box, and we will have running game success behind that if they take that path, which I think they're going to at least early on in the season.
Right. And, even throw Cooper Kupp in there because Cooper Kupp's having a really good camp so far. Everyone's talking about how he looks like he's 28 again. So this team may be better equipped to air it out and get into shootouts than you think. Last year, I think that trying to do that would have been a disaster. Like Ryan Grubb trying to coach this team last year would have been terrible. But this year, it's a little bit more feasible.
Yeah, I agreed 100% here, man. And there's a play last year at camp where Cooper Kupp, you saw the one-handed catch by Cooper Kupp a couple weeks ago, right? Where he one hands it he's on a go route, and he ran that same go route last year with Sam. I was in training camp, and Sam slightly overthrew him. And I think that play is kind of an indicative of one where you're going to see this across the board, where Sam comfortable with these pass catching targets, having now multiple years to throw to him. It's going to be that little bit much more on point, that little bit much more ball's in a little bit more of a better spot. Now suddenly that play that's a little overthrow last year becomes a completion. And that's going to happen across the board too.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I think that's really about it. So let's take a moment here to talk about the sponsor of the show, if you're all right with that, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
So let's see here. Our sponsor today is going to be Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 sports app in America right now, and they've got so much fun stuff going on over there that you can get into right now. Sorry about this. Let me just try to get this all set up here. shoot, where did I put it? Where did I put it? Okay, yeah, here we go. So you can get on over there. You can do all kinds of fun stuff over there. You can pick over unders on players, and right now Prize Picks has a really cool deal where if you place down a $5 lineup and you win, you immediately get $150 in lineups. So get on over there, take advantage of that. Use promo code HMA, and that is for both me and Brandon. Doesn't matter. You can use HMA and you're helping me out and you're helping him out. You can also get on over to the teams part of the app, like I have over here on the left side, where you can pick winners. I've got, by the way, the Houston Texans winning tonight. Yes, we're betting on the preseason a little bit here. We are talking about the preseason because it's still football and it's still somebody's still going to win, right? I mean, probably, I guess not guaranteed, but probably somebody's going to win. So get on over to Prize Picks, download the app, use code HMA, and definitely take advantage of all the great stuff you can get on over there. They've got a bunch of extra stuff going on as well right now, like their culture section. So get on over to Prize Picks and remember to always gamble responsibly. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this upcoming Titans. Well, first the joint practice, what we can expect from that, and then the game itself on Sunday. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think with joint practice, it's just that's your chance to really get the true run for the ones that they used to have. I think you do I think it was third preseason game. I think you used to have when there was 4 of them, you'd have your starters out there for maybe a half or really run them. This is what that sort of has taken the place of. And so they're going to get their run, and we're all going to be holding our breath collectively, Brendan, because you see some of these inter-squad practices. I think they're a necessity. I do. You got to run them. And it feels like the Titans have run damn near like 7 of them. I mean, they're really going overdrive there with Saleh. But you need it. You're just worried about injuries. We saw the Charger practice a couple days ago where the guard threw the defensive lineman into their free agent signing, Tyler Biadasz, his knees, and he's going to be out for the year now probably. And you just don't want to have an injury in these kind of games, but you want to get the work in, and it's a fine line. So hopefully they do. I'm going to be watching and hitting refresh on X all day tomorrow. Just like, no injury, please. But hopefully they get in some good work. It was helpful last year.
Right. And I think the Titans are a team that we've done a joint practice with before. I think 2 years ago, I remember the clip of, I think it was Jeffrey Simmons throwing Laken Tomlinson around all day. So I think they were a team that we joint practiced with fairly recently. So obviously there's not a lot going on with that Titans team quite yet, but they're starting to build up at least a little bit, and they might be headed in the right direction now. So the preseason game, do you think we'll get to see much of the starters from either side? Because obviously we did not in the first preseason game.
No, we're going to probably have to wait to the one drive in the third game against the Chiefs will be about all we see as far as the starters maybe on either side of the ball. I would be my estimation. So, and with them getting the work in here with the practice, you just go, look, we'll get the work in now. Don't get it in for the game. So it'll be again back to probably second and third and fourth stringers again this week in this game.
Yeah, in some cases that's not all bad. Like I do think we need to try to figure out what's going on at corner. Like, does Trayvon Diggs play this week, and does he look better than what we had against the Cowboys? Because that was one of the big weaknesses in that game, I think, and I'm sure the coaches noticed. Cowboys were like 11 of 14 or 11 of 15 on third down. Big reason why is our corners weren't playing well, and we couldn't get any pass rush on the quarterbacks. So I imagine that seeing that in a preseason game is probably a little bit more important than seeing the starters that we know what they can do. We know that they can play. We know what they're capable of. So I'm not against it. But do you think we see Trayvon this week?
No, I think you get him. I mean, he hasn't had any training camp. He's not done barely any practice. I think you're rolling the dice on creating an injury there with a guy that's just not prepared. I think next week you probably give him a little bit of run that final preseason game, a good amount. But I think this week you're just wanting to get him to speed.
Yeah. I think that makes a good amount of sense. Hopefully we can get some of these rookies out there like Jadarian Price, who's practicing in full now for the last couple of days. That's a big one. Julian Neal, I'd love to see him out there, but I haven't heard much from him over the last couple of days, so I'm guessing not. So, how about the offensive line? Like, we're trying to sort out some stuff on that offensive line. What are you keeping an eye on that front?
Well, I think that there's two main guys that have got my eye right now. There's obviously a little bit of, you're going to look and watch Federico Menages or see if this team puts any bit of Richmond in at center, because there's a couple teams now that are going to be center hungry in this league a little bit, and that the Olatimi factor and him being a possibility of somebody that the team kind of has a, we'll give you the 5th or 6th round pick for him, and then Seattle's got the fill in already in house. But do we have the fill in house? Again, Richmond and Federico, because Olatimi holds up to a certain standard. I know what I'm getting in him. I may not get like flashy play, but I'm getting a good baseline. So watching them for sure. But then the two guys to his left and right. I mean, Christian Haynes, I don't know if you saw the one bad snap he had, which was just wild. It was a Bradford snap, where he's completely loses the blitzer and then comes back, and then Bali whops him halfway into the play because he's partly frustrated because he missed the blitzer. Luckily, Holani picked him up. But then there was some really good snaps in there with Haynes in that game, I thought, where second level stuff, good and pass pro. I saw some steps forward from him as a player in that game, and the rating seemed to indicate that from PFF as well. And then Bo Stevens. Bo Stevens is a guy that's not necessarily had a startling camp where everybody was wondering if he could overtake Bradford as a starter. He's not going to. He's not ready. But boy, I thought he had some really good run blocking reps. He was getting some pancakes out there, some legitimate ones, and getting pancakes, Brendan, where it wasn't that the guy was heads up. Like, he'd have to get over there and climb down to that block, hit that reach block down, not even further than a reach block. The guy's a whole nother gap away, and he's got to get over there, get him controlled, and then dusted him up. Had a couple of those reps that was very impressive. He's a work in progress when it comes to pass pro, but I liked what I saw from Bo. I'm going to be watching those guys in particular here on that line.
Yeah. I really like the point you made about the Oluwatimi, the possibility of maybe trading him. Remember, Harbaugh coached him in college because he was on that Michigan team when Harbaugh was there. And I got to believe that there's going to be some degree of interest in it. Might not even be for a pick. You might package Oluwatimi with a lower pick and get a higher pick, right? Like, what if you could do Oluwatimi and a 6th and get the Chargers 4th or something like that?
That would be ideal.
Because we got too many picks as it is. We're trying to get better picks more so than more picks, I think.
Yeah, it does become a little bit unwieldy, doesn't it? Once you get to like 13, 14 picks where you're like, I don't know if we can offload all this stuff.
Yeah, and the roster's too good. We're going to draft too many players that have no chance of making the team.
Yeah, it's the truth of it. So I love your idea on that. Yeah, that'd be the way to try to do it, is let's see how we can kind of maybe flip this around to actually get a better pick and not just another stack 6th or 5th.
Right. Because I don't know who the Chargers' new center is, but I'm pretty sure it's the rookie from Slaughter, right? Jake Slaughter.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And he's probably not ready to play effectively. And that Chargers team has high aspirations this year, in theory.
Well, and to your point as well, what sunk their season last year? Do you want to try to roll the dice on an offensive line that was your exact reason last year that you fell short of getting further than you did? And it was a good team, but that held you back. That was the specific aspect.
So I do really like that idea. And the stuff you were saying about like Bo Stevens and Christian Haynes, we got to sort some stuff out because not all those guys are going to get to make the team. Like you do a head count, somebody of note is going to have to go, like maybe Cable Do, who seems like Richmond has passed him in the pecking order.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bad sign for Cable Do, which is too bad because he's a great athlete, really good testing scores, but seems like this team is kind of leaning towards Richmond, and that could mean Cable Dew's just gone or on the practice squad.
He was part of the struggles on the line last week, and that fits to what we've heard from some of the reports out of camp with him too.
Right. Yeah. And we got to find that 4th tackle, because right now the only backup tackle we really have that we feel good about is Jones. And then you've got Amari Kite, you've got Logan Brown. I didn't think either guy looked that great last week. For some reason, Logan Brown had a really good PFF grade, even though he committed, I think, 4 penalties in that game, which is really hard to do. So I don't know what he was doing on the other snaps. It must have been really good. He must have been balancing an orange on his head while hitting a half-court shot or while blocking the guy with his other arm or something. But we got to find a 4th tackle, I think. I don't like only having one worthwhile backup tackle.
No, it's not ideal. The good part with Josh is he can play swing tackle left or right. You lose either one, he can pop out there. So that's the good news with this. But I thought my hope is kind of Logan. He seems kind of the guy with some development hope upside to him, and really with some stuff that there might be a little bit of something there with that guy.
Mhm. All right. And what else? What else? Did any of the edge rushers that played last week stand out to you? Which would be Ivy, O'Toole, Aiden Hubbard. Do you see anything you like from that crew?
I was kind of surprised Hubbard got the grade he did by PFF. I didn't know if I saw that on tape. The performance that they had, not that they had him like in the 70s, and I just didn't see he was there. Jalen Gaines had a couple moments there where he popped and gave you some quick pressure, but I think it was pretty stunning and startling how little you got from anybody throughout the course of almost the entirety of this game as far as any kind of pass rush. It's one of the reasons that they were so successful in throwing the ball is that they had all day to throw the ball in clean pockets. And so, everybody across the board, you'd like to see more from there. We've been wondering about maybe the need for a fifth edge. I will say that I thought Jared Ivey and Mike Morris looked active. I mean, in Ivey, your heart goes out to the guy because he's got the club on his hand. It's restricting him, but he's actually playing with a lot of fire and heart out there. It stood out because we had a defense that was not playing with a lot of fire and heart. Like Mike said in the Hard Knocks, we're missing the juice. There wasn't a lot of juice out there. I felt like Ivey brings the juice. I like that about that. But not a lot else there, man. There was very little meat on that bone to look at, and I'm hoping these guys can give us some more this week. Because if not, John's going to get impelled and feel like he's got to probably go get another edge at that point to reinforce a very vet-heavy crew.
Yeah, I still have my mind on the idea of having a fifth edge that can at least play a little bit. And based on what I saw last week, I don't know if we have that guy on the roster right now. Like I know you said Mike Morris, and Morris did play good. You're right, but Mike Morris is over 300 pounds. I don't know how viable that is in this defense. I don't know exactly how to feel about that. So, I mean, at this point, if you want to sign an edge, your only real option is, I feel like you've got Kyle Van Noy, who has played under McDonald before and played well. So, okay. You got Hassan Reddick. And then it gets thin. You've got, like, what's the guy who was on the Falcons last year? Former top 10
he's
pick.
the journeyman. Yeah, he's been around the
Leonard,
league a
Leonard
bunch.
Floyd. Leonard Floyd.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah, it's thin because Von Miller's off the board now, and I think Von Miller already said a couple months ago he wasn't going to sign with Seattle. So it's kind of thin if you want to go out and get another guy. So I'm hoping one of the young guys on this team can at least show something.
Well, and I think that it's a position too that you can tend to, if you are really motivated to go get somebody, you can tend to go find somebody out there on the market. You have the cut days and all that, where we might have somebody new that gets out of the market when we get down to cut town time that interests them. But I also think you can kind of afford to wait because the four are locked in. You can kind of afford to wait and see a little bit for the first couple of games how this sort of shakes out. I don't think it's like it is something that's. I think you're right. We're gonna have to address it at some point, but maybe that there isn't an urgency behind it because you have the good depth and the starters in place. It's more we can kind of wait and see a little bit.
Yeah, I'm mostly worried about Nwosu because he really ran out of gas in the second half of the season last year, and I don't know what that was. Was that him just getting tired because it was his first full season in a couple years? Was that him just kind of hitting the cliff and falling off of it, and he's going to keep falling off of it? I don't know what Nwosu is going to be this year. I don't know if he's going to play like he did in the first half of the year or the second half, but I'm worried he ends up just becoming kind of a guy who's just out there because we don't have anybody else.
Yeah, it remains to be seen. Like you said, he came in, had like 5 sacks in a couple games, and everything looked like it was going back to what we had seen when he was really coming forward before the injuries, but then it just went very quiet and inexplicably so, because you would have thought he was getting more healthier and healthier. He might be more down to your point, but that, he's further removed from the injury. But, the team seems to be confident. That's the interesting part to me on this one, is that his cost was so great to be had in saving if you wanted to cut off of him and, go to a guy like, let's say, a Clowney at that point and actually save maybe even a little bit of money collectively on the through the wash. And they didn't do that. And it does seem, I'm taking a little bit away from that there seems to be some ultimate real confidence here that the injury stuff's going to be fully free and away, and that they're going to get the best version of Uchenna Nwosu. I think that's what that tells me by them not taking those steps.
He is only 29. It feels like he's 33 or something. It feels like he's much older than he is because we've had him for a while and he can't stay healthy, but he is only 29. So it's not completely beyond the pale.
Yeah. Came into the league really young. One of those 21-year-old kids when he walked in.
Anything else about this game you want to put a little bit of a spotlight on before we get there on Sunday?
Really interested to see more of what they might do with Tyrese Knight. He was the best player on the field, I thought, for the Hawks on either side of the ball. I thought that he was also used a little bit off the edge on some of the snaps. So going to continue to monitor a little bit of that because we're talking about this extra edge. And if he can actually eat some snaps up there and be capable, this removes something off your board as far as a necessity goes. And so really going to be locking in a bit on that a bit. But he was fantastic, man, all over the field, covering slot wide receivers, getting out in space in the dump offs into the flat, tackling them for 2-yard gains. I can't understand how good the tape was with him hitting again. Man, that guy's got some bricks in his pads. I mean, when he hits you, you're going to feel it. Really interested to see what they do with Tyrese Knight this year, Brendan. And then a little bit of Bud Clark. He was fine. Didn't necessarily flash, but didn't have any exposed points either. Wasn't, picked on or anything like that. But he'll be another guy to kind of be watching here in this game.
Yeah, I think some people should understand that sometimes when a player like a Bud Clark does his job, you don't notice him. Like a lot of the time, their job is to just not give up stuff. And if they don't give up stuff, you're not going to see them on your screen. That's a good thing. So some people were like, man, I didn't see Bud Clark in that game. And I was thinking to myself, that's probably good. That probably means he did a good job. So I think he did good too. And I'm excited about that.
You're on it. This is partly why is the position devalued? People went, why doesn't safeties get paid like well, because there's snaps you have where you're not actually impacting the play because you've got to be doing what is literally the moniker of your position. You are the safety. You are there to prevent the big play from happening. And that means you're not in on everything. And so hence we can't pay you like we got to pay all the other guys like a lineman who's going to be on every single play, impacting every single play.
Right. So yeah, that's going to be intriguing. Although it does feel like Okada has secured the starting job at this point. I'd be pretty surprised if anything else happened because I actually said a couple weeks ago I hadn't heard anything about Okada in camp so far, and then the next few practices we heard a bunch about Okada. I felt like so I think we're good there. And yeah, the Tyrese Knight thing's really interesting because you're going to have to massage it a little bit to get him on the field, but there are definitely ways to get him out there with his starters where I think he could make a positive impact. So I'm keeping an eye on that one big time. And the fact that he made plays in coverage was really nice too, because I think that's part of the reason why he got benched last year. He was a huge liability in coverage, and eventually it didn't make up for everything else.
But it also is where we go back to his rookie year. He was not a liability in coverage. He was covering Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the slot. He was covering Michael Wilson out of the slot and winning those battles. So it's also like last year, remember that he had the injuries, heart, and I believe knee at the same time through the offseason, and it wasn't really in the right place at that point. A guy that on 300 snaps last year was your highest rated off-ball linebacker. He outpaced Drake. He outpaced Ernest Jones. And that's 300 snaps. That's not just 75 snaps peppered through on a 17-game schedule. That's 300 snaps. So I think that there's something there, man, with this guy. And I think last year that injury thing was a big weighty factor to everything.
Yeah, so that's exciting. If he can continue to build on that. I don't think it's completely beyond the pale that at some point he could even take the starting job back from Drake Thomas, because again, he was the starter and then all the injuries happened. So on some level, somebody in this organization thinks that he's better than Drake Thomas, or else Drake Thomas would have been starting from the beginning.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this battle breaks down. And if he is really if he's just being that good and he's really coming forward as a player in this way, and it just makes it hard for the coach to have to keep him off that field. And I mean, like I said, there's some creative ways to do this too. You can play with a little bit more base looks. You go base, you put Imanwari at Okada spot at safety. Right. And then you run something like that. You can do that. That's not out of the realm of possibility, and certainly would catch teams by surprise. You're anticipating all week you're going to get a nickel look from Seattle, and suddenly they're running base on you. Even trotted out just the second half. Imagine how you catch them in shock.
Right. Okay. Tall Assassin, thank you for the $1.99. No mention of Ryan Grubb. He is banished.
He who shall not be named. He has become Voldemort.
Yeah, where is Ryan Grubb right now, by the way? Is he still at Alabama? Let me see.
Didn't he go back to Fresno or something?
Yeah, he's the OC at Alabama still.
Wow. He must have some naughty pics of divorce or something.
I mean, he doesn't call plays, right? DeBoer calls plays. Or am I wrong about that? I'm actually not sure, but I'll bet DeBoer calls plays.
I didn't know that. Huh.
So, I mean, at that point, you're just kind of drinking buddies with the head coach, right? Like you're like Nathaniel Hackett in Green Bay.
I suppose so. It's not the worst of places to be an OC because you're getting a lot of talent coming through there. They got a big old quarterback in there too. He came in for Simpson last year. He's very impressive.
Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff passing through there. Not as much as there used to be though under Saban. It's interesting how much less interesting that team is without Saban.
Yeah, it's a loss, man. One of the great all-time coaches on the college level, man. You don't just replace that even with as good as DeBoer was coming out of Washington.
Mhm. Okay, so I think that's really about it for this week. Anything else you want to talk about with these Seahawks before we get on out of here? Kind of a shorter show, but not surprising. It's the preseason.
No, I just think the one last little thing that's interesting is just whether or not Cody White and his special teams ability will supplant Montario Foster in his catching and what he does as a receiving ability. Not that Cody doesn't bring that too, but it just seems like on the surface of this, maybe Montario's got him a little bit nipped on the running to be able to run a full route tree and being able to be really dynamic at creating separation, whereas Cody seems to be that better special teams player. And of course, that last receiver spot on the roster tends to go to the special teams demon. So let's see how it goes in this game with that.
Do you think this team is regretting the Jake Bobo contract at this point? Do you think they'd wish they could keep both, but Bobo's kind of blocking the way?
I don't think it's a major issue for him because the contract's so cheap. And at the end of the day, it's the difference in how many snaps is really getting eaten up one way or the other on this is going to be pretty mitigated as far as any of these guys really seeing the field at a very high rate, but maybe marginally so at most.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like looking at this and Bobo's contract, 2 years, $5.5 million. It's almost all guaranteed, so he can't really go anywhere. Can't let him go. I might rather have that money and be able to keep Cody White and Montori Foster than have Bobo. It's interesting. It's an interesting discussion to have, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a discussion there, and it is a way to save a little bit of some cash there because he's costing a couple $1 million. So, I mean, it's worthy of that, but it's also they are a little bit still question marky in either of them and what they could supply in an actual NFL game pass catching wise. And I think in Bubba, we do know we got a really good blocker and a really good special teams player, but I think it's a fair question.
Right, because I'm feeling the Montori Foster thing, and I don't think we're going to be able to keep that guy at this point. I think that guy's probably if he does not make this team, he may find his way to another roster. There are teams out there that are pretty destitute at receiver. Like I think a team like the Dolphins might consider picking him up and putting him on their roster because they've got nothing there. Maybe even a team like the 49ers because of all the problems they're having with their receivers already getting banged up. So I don't like our odds of being able to get him on the practice squad right now.
No, I don't either. And that's where it may come down in this discussion on him and Cody White, where with Cody, you're like, I can get him on the practice squad. So maybe it comes down to that between the determination between the two of them is just, we want to keep this guy. We can keep them both this way. Let's go this route with it. And, as good as Cody was on some of those kickoff returns, you're not going to need him to do that during the regular season. You're going to have Sheed and Horton, ideally they're doing that.
All right. A little bit of Seahawks news here as we start to move to close out the show here. So apparently the sale of the Seahawks to the Koshla family has been recommended for approval by the NFL's Finance Committee and Ownership Policy Committee. So I believe next week they're actually going to vote on it, but both those committees have approved it. So looks like it is a done deal.
Fantastic to hear, man. Just good to hear no trip ups or anything with that. And it's going to get its rubber stamp on through and we'll be under new ownership in a new era.
Yeah. I guess I never asked you about this. I'm sure you talked about it a bunch in your show though. What do you think of the Koshlas? How do you feel about that new ownership group?
I think with ownership, I've been taught over my lifetime, you never know what you're actually going to get until the ink is dried on the sale of the contract of the team. And now we'll see what we get. And you hope, and you can look at it ideally and be like, well, the way this guy operates, it should be this way and it should be that way. And sometimes it does fit that way where my impression is they're going to stay out of the way. They're going to let these guys do what they're doing and understand that there's been a tremendous amount of success here and that there's not a need for them to come in as owners and make a lot of upending decisions. But with that said, you don't ever know. And we've had a lot of owners that have come in that are billionaires, that are smart men in how they run their businesses. And they come in and they do some weird, wonky stuff with teams. I don't think that'll be the case here. I think Jody's has done her due diligence in this situation to make sure that they got the right, replacements here. Everything we're hearing from them on the surface seems to be great. They're going to have the financial ability to do the things we want to be doing or that we've done in the past and keeping to that standard. You can see it with the new contract we just signed. Certainly, you're going to be with this Devin Witherspoon contract and making him the highest paid player at his position in the sport. You're going to want the new owners to be in on that and want their feedback. So I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery to me, but I am going to just kind of fall back to trusting in Jody a little bit on this one, just because she guided this so well after Paul. And I just keep coming back to Brendan. I don't think you take this 30-year experience of the Allens and what they've done with this team and its impact on Seattle and creating and establishing this winner, only to just throw it off the end, throw it into a, basically a trash heap at this point with the next owner. Like, you don't care suddenly. I just don't see it. I think you're going to keep that baton and you're going to hand it over to Coach Liz and they'll keep this thing going.
Yeah. I'm getting a good vibe from it so far. I am definitely getting a good sense of it, but I think you made a really good point when you said there's no way for us to know how it's going to go until it starts going. And we just have to kind of live with that uncertainty for a little bit longer here, but not much longer, because it sounds like we are about a week away from this getting finalized.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll learn soon here, man. We'll learn soon enough, but you're right. Early indicators seem to be good, which is a good sign.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody. So shorter show this week because, of course, we are still in the preseason. So we will be doing this again next week after the Titans game. I believe our game next week is going to be on Friday. I think we play the Chiefs on Friday, if I recall correctly. So we'll do a show before then, and then the season is here. We're defending our title. We're hosting the very first game of the season, and there's going to be nothing left to do except just sit back and watch this team show what they can do on a title defense. So, Brandon, thank you for coming out and doing this with me today.
Appreciate you. As always, Brendan. Love doing it with you.
Mm-hmm. So really excited to continue this on for the rest of the season. Once again, a quick little shout out to the sponsor, Prize Picks. Go download the app and use code HMA. And guys, we are almost there. We've got 2 more meaningless games to get through, and then the games start counting. We've got 2 more episodes of Hard Knocks left. So all there is to just get up, get ready for this season to start counting, get ready for these games to start mattering, and say, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.